Auburn football has added another running back to its 2023 roster. Let's talk about what that means for that position group and how it's going to affect the team going forward. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. This is Good Morning Auburn, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about something that's going on in the Auburn family spectrum. Usually a interesting topic that's kind of risen to the top as of late, as this is our becoming daily show where we get together with you in the morning and just talk about these things and the news items that are coming out today. So we thank you so much for joining us watching live here. If you are watching live on YouTube, if you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you being here as well and hanging out with us, spend some time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. It means so much that you would do that with us today. Couple things for you to get started off. As always, as you come into our show, we want to encourage you to first start off by checking in and posting where you're watching from, your city, your state, international, so we can know who's here hanging out with us, spending time. And all together in unison right now, I'd love for it if you could smash the like button and help people know that we're live so they can come in and join if they want to as well, or if they can find it on the replay. It will help that process. So thanks so much for that. Let me give you guys an update because apparently some people need that. So these are going to be shorter form live streams where we just talk about this for about 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. You never know how longer or shorter we'll go from that. And we'll talk with you. And I'll share my thoughts about this particular topic. This is not going to be a short form in and out type of video where we just give you the information and head you on out. So with that being said, our topic today, a running back has been added to the roster. And how is that going to update this roster? That's what we're going to get into. I'm going to share my thoughts, some things that I think you should kind of keep in mind for the upcoming year. I'll even show you what the roster will look like now once this one is officially added, and potentially another one. And love to hear some of your thoughts. We got Tyrone checking in, Thomas. Rise Life says another one. Neil says watching from my neck of the woods. Yes. So thank you guys so much for being here. Y'all drop comments as you're watching today. All right. So the news, Christian Burnette is a preferred walk-on being added to the 2023 roster, but also the running back room. Now, what does that mean? So I know a lot of you already know a lot about college football, recruiting, all that kind of stuff, or just roster management. Some people don't. So let's just go ahead and put that out there that a preferred walk-on, and I may be butchering the definition of this because people hear walk-on, they hear preferred walk-on, they hear scholarship, can get a little bit confusing sometimes. A preferred walk-on is someone that is basically recruited and asked to come to be part of the team, but they don't necessarily have a scholarship for them yet. Sometimes there is going to be a roster spot come available, or they're anticipating that one, and they would be kind of a preferred option to take that spot. They're not guaranteed in any way but it's kind of like one of those things where someone is a big enough recruit where they probably could go get something somewhere, but if they wanted to come to a particular school, they could take the option of being a preferred walk-on. So that's what's happened here. So this is not your traditional commit video. It is a commitment, but it is not anything like that. I don't even think they'll add him as part of the class, if I'm not mistaken, because the commit class is usually someone that has signed scholarship paperwork. So if anybody wants to dispute that, let me know. But that is how I believe all that works. I wanted to put that in a nutshell. So Christian Robinson out of Mobile, out of Faith Academy, is going to be a running back as a preferred walk-on for Auburn in the future. So what does that mean? Now, we're not going to get into the ins and outs of what we traditionally do in our commit videos, because again, nothing against Christian, but we're likely not going to see a ton of Christian, at least to start off with. But what he does provide is a very intriguing option for someone that could come available for Auburn to use later on down the line if things don't go the way we want. So how do we get to this point? Why did we bring him in? All those kind of questions, I think, is what most people want to ask him. Yes, I saw that question. How many stars is Burnette? Neil, how to get me stirred up. I actually don't even know how many stars this one is. I usually know that even though I don't talk about it a whole lot, but yeah. Walk-ons have known recently to be a huge pickup, so you never know. Absolutely, and that's why we're spending an entire Good Morning Auburn segment talking about not just him, and this is what we do with all our commit alerts or something related like this. We talk about what it means not just for them, but for Auburn football, because that's the big part of the equation. It's not just about them, it's about the team. So that's why we're going to talk about him a little detail. So how do we get to this point? Now, you have to remember and I should have actually, I have the roster print out what it looks currently without the addition of him. I should have done it for last season too, so you could see that. But if you remember, Tank Bigsby is gone, and so is the name Jordan Ingram. And a lot of you are going to be like, who? I get that. I understand you didn't really see him, but there was some, I think he was the guy from South Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. There was some intrigue kind of similar to this one. I think he actually still was a scholarship guy, but he might have seen some time if push come to shove and all that type of stuff. But really, you lost 2 running backs. Okay. So we've already picked up one in Brian Batty, if that's how it's said. I still haven't figured that one out. The South Florida running back, the 1,000-yard rusher. But now you've got another spot that you could fill just by the sheer fact of losing Tank Bigsby and losing Jordan Ingram. So here you go. So essentially, think of it this way. If you're thinking about numbers in your head, this guy has taken Jordan Ingram's spot. And I know what the next question is, what does this mean for our running back recruit? Well, more on that in just a little bit, but we'll get there in just a second. A lot of other people checking in that I want to say hello to. Keith from Defunia, good to see you. Thanks. Jimmy, I don't know if I said hello to you. Let's see. Rise Life. I think I said, were you here earlier in the chat? Yes, you were. Devin's here. Good morning from Texas. A lot of good people here tonight. T Hall, good morning to you, says, hope he ends up with a scholarship. So these are sometimes some of the best stories, right? Can I bring attention to you, Sean Jackson? So I guess just for sake of information, let me bring this up for you now. This is obviously courtesy of Auburn football's website, their roster spot. Without the addition of Jeremiah Cobb, the recruit that's part of this class, and officially without him being added, that being Christian Burnette, and with Tank Bigsby and Jordan Ingram being gone, here is your roster. We'll dive into that in just a second, your running backs. But I want to point your attention to Sean Jackson based off of this comment. One of the best things in football is watching preferred walk-ons or walk-ons get a scholarship after they've earned it. Jake Levant did that this year. The linebacker actually got to play a lot. As we saw Sean Jackson do that a season ago. So this is a really good thing. It's something that is, if you're a walk-on, if you come in as a preferred walk-on, you have a higher propensity probably to be able to earn one of those. So hopefully we'll see something similar to Sean Jackson with this guy as well. Stetson Bennett. Bring that one up. All right. So this is your roster with now the addition of Christian Burnette added into there as a commitment, as a preferred walk-on. You have Damari Alston, Jarquez Hunter, Justin Jones, Luke Reballs, and Rebiles, I don't know how you say that, and Sean Jackson. So when you really break this thing down, again, no disrespect to any player on the team like that, but you're really looking at 2 players, and that's not usually good. You want to usually have 3 go-to guys on the team. Now with Jeremiah Cobb coming in and if he stays committed, all that kind of stuff, that's taken care of, right? But you don't necessarily want to have someone, come in and have to start right away, especially if they're maybe not college ready. And this also does include Brian Batty as well. So right now, when you think about it, you've got Jarquez Hunter and Damari Alston. You had Brian Batty to the mix. Batty, however you say it. And that's your 3 go-to guys this season, probably. 2 experienced individuals in Jarquez Hunter. And we all know that he's going to be the star this year as long as he stays healthy. He's incredible. As much as people don't like Brian Harsin, you cannot argue with what he has left you in Jarquez Hunter. And Damari Alston is a pretty good one as well. So those 2 guys, a little bit of a 1-2 punch to start off with. Brian Batty deciding to come in and kind of mix things up as well, could have a powerful trio at running back. And so really then you look down below that, you've got Luke Reballs, who I believe is a walk-on himself. Sean Jackson, a scholarship. Justin Jones, I think, is a scholarship. So you have two essentially walk-on running backs that are going to be added to the mix. So that's what your running back room will officially at this point look like. Now, why do I say that? Because I think when somebody sees a running back come into the room, that concerns them for one particular person, Jeremiah Cobb, right? The running back commit, one probably at one point the crown jewel, and offensively the crown jewel of this class. If you want to just talk about perception game, if you want to just talk about stars, a lot of people saw this, I felt like, and were worried, what does this mean for him? Is this the sign that we're preparing for him not to commit? Well, obviously, that could be the answer. That could be part of it. I don't necessarily think so. I don't think that there's any indication thus far that he is not going to stay true to his commitment and sign with Auburn in February, like he has said he would all along. So I wouldn't, to me, panic and think that just because you brought in Brian from South Florida, just because you brought in a preferred walk-on, that's saying anything about Jeremiah Cobb's commitment. Because if you think about it, he was committed when there were two other guys on the roster. Now there's no longer those two guys, and now those spots have been filled. So it's essentially square one for him. And look, so here's the thing too. He comes in this year, if Tank Bigsby stays part of the team, then, he probably knew he was going to be playing a whole lot behind Jarquez Hunter and all that. So same thing here. He's coming into a very similar situation. So if you're part of that group that's panicking that this means that Jeremiah Cobb will not stay true to his commitment, I can't guarantee anything for you, but I can give you those reasons to look at it and not think about it that way. So that's what we talk when we're talking about a commitment, or even a commitment of a preferred walk-on, what it means for the group. That's why we kind of walk through it that way. I want you to have the way the roster looks currently before them, and who's all coming in, who's all left, and what could they be seeing in terms of that. So that's one of the things. Oh, Devin. You can never have too many running backs. I agree. Running backs come at a premium in the NFL, but even at the college level. So yes, you need roster spots, because what did we see this year for quarterbacks? You are literally an injury away from starting. Everyone thought Zach Calzada was going to be the starter. Couldn't get it healthy enough to even play this season. Everyone thought then that TJ Finley would at least hold it down for a little while. Didn't work all that way. Robbie Ashford came to play. Robbie Ashford got injured in one of his games where he was starting, and Holden Geriner had to play. Never know, right? What happens if Jarquez Hunter gets hurt? What happens if Damari Alston gets hurt? You're down to, a brand new guy in Brian Batty and, some of the other roster guys you have in pieces. And, Jeremiah Cobb might have to burn his red shirt. So a lot of opportunities are still available for him. But some of these comments are making me laugh. All these walk-on jokes on here. Thomas Britt points out that we got down to Trey Smith when Carnell and Ronnie and Brandon Jacobs. And I think even that season, even though he was not a running back, Brandon Johnson, the fullback, was injured for a time too that season. We literally had one of the most frustrating seasons ever, I think is what it was. No, that was the season after that. I'm sorry. That's when they all were together. So yes, it was when Ronnie and Cadillac went down. I did have that backwards. So thank you for springing that into my memory. So would love to know some of your thoughts about this particular running back, anything that you've seen that you would like. I know there's some highlights out there. If anybody has any familiarity with him, please let me know. And we'll take some last minute comments here towards the end of the show. I want to give you the updates about what to expect for us before we round out our show. What's coming next? New live stream being added to the mix tonight. Do not miss this. It is a history show. Let me pull this down so we can see this here. Auburn history, green jerseys with Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database. We are going to talk about the history of the green jerseys. Go check out his article if you haven't. He will be with me live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Don't miss that discussion. Also, make sure you tune in tomorrow morning for another edition of Good Morning Auburn. Need to be a subscriber if you're not, so you can be part of that giveaway that we have going on. You can be a channel member, a booster club member, all the things you can be and help to keep the lights on here at E2C Network. And we appreciate those of you that can do it, but mainly we just appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending time being part of our little family within the Auburn family. All right, let's look at your comments and questions. Alabama John says, just joining the chat. How good is this guy? We won't know, right, until he gets here. If you're asking how good he is in the reference to how often will he play, based on what we just walked through on the roster, I would suspect that playing time will be limited, but you never know. We just made the point that Trey Smith never thought he would start with Ronnie and Cadillac in the mix, and look what happened. And he was a diamond in the rough. Yes, he was. All kinds of good things. Trey Smith, if you want to make the argument, one of the most underrated, underappreciated players in Auburn history was probably Trey Smith. I could make the argument that Nick Marshall was one of the more underrated players in Auburn history, but we won't go down that path today. But there you have it. So as a reminder, your roster as it sits right now, with the addition of Christian Burnette, the now preferred walk-on who we've been talking about and what it means for the group, Brian Batty, however, I cannot get it right. It keeps coming up different in my head. Brian Batty in this roster group. Damari Alston, Jarquez Hunter, Justin Jones, Sean Jackson, Luke Ribbles, and hopefully in February, Jeremiah Cobb. That is your running back room, and that is your update to the roster and that group. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us today, spending time being part of our little family within the Auburn family, and hope to see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to talk about all the stuff about the green jerseys, or even tomorrow morning for another edition of Good Morning Auburn. You guys are the best little family within the Auburn family. I appreciate you so much. Till we talk to you again, War Eagle.